Và tiếp theo chương trình, chúng ta sẽ đến với bài tham luận cuối cùng trong buổi chiều ngày hôm nay với phần trình bày của bà Zdravka Paskaleva Newman, Giám đốc nhóm giải pháp đô thị thông minh Cisco, với chủ đề tái định hình các đô thị trong kỷ nguyên chuyển đổi số trong vòng 10 đến 15 phút. Và sau phần báo cáo này thì chúng ta sẽ đến với phiên tọa đàm. Và do là hạn chế thời gian cho nên là ban tổ chức có bố trí một phần T-Rex ở bên ngoài, thì những đại biểu nào chúng ta có nhu cầu thì chúng ta sẽ thưởng thức T-Rex ở bên ngoài và song song cùng với là lắng nghe phần trình bày của các speaker. Và now welcome Ms. Zdravka Paskaleva Newman, lead a smart and connected community from Cisco, please.
Thank you very much, distinguished guests, Minister of Information and Communication Technologies, Minister of Science and Technology, Chairman of the Economic Commission, members of the party. Thank you very much for having me here today, and I'm not sure how I'm going to top up this amazing sharing that we are experiencing here today. I'm very grateful for the insights I learned from the previous speakers today. Just go and take this one now. Okay, so just a little bit about my background. I've been actually quite a few times in Vietnam already, and I'm really hopeful that we will see some serious progress around smart cities in Vietnam. It's not my first time presenting in Ho Chi Minh, and I'm very happy to be here today again. A little bit about myself. I am actually born in Bulgaria, and I spent quite some time in Europe where I was busy in smart cities for 6-7 years, and I'm now recently based in Hong Kong. Actually not so recent, it's about 6 years now that I'm based in Hong Kong. So all in total, maybe I've been in the space for about 9 to 10 years. I have also done some research and some thesis around what are the successful business models and the successful engagement models in smart cities. What I'd like to share with you today is how the digital transformation is impacting smart cities, and also some of the experience that we are driving around the region. In this role, I'm actually mostly responsible for the business development in the region of our smart city technologies. Also, this is my favorite photo I took a year ago when I was traveling to Vietnam, actually. This is actually the window screen of Chanel, the signature flag store in Hong Kong. It's not like this anymore, but 1 year ago, and it made me think about the disruption that the technology brings even to established brands where you wouldn't think that technology would have such an impact. Okay. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time repeating the things that most of the speakers already have told, and you've been in a very intensive session this morning. I think the most important thing is that the digital transformation is everywhere, and we have already managed to connect people. So that's the number one thing that we have looked at. How are we connecting people in more relevant and valuable ways? The second thing that we're spending a lot of time today is about the Internet of Things, the physical world. How many devices are still not connected? We don't know. 2016 it was 99%. I think it's still a very high amount of devices and data that can be released from all the connections that are possible through the people connectivity and also through the Internet of Things. So once we know how to leverage the data, which has been the sharing of the previous speakers, is actually where we're really going to hit off the transformation in processes and in industries. A lot of you already know what happened to the smartphone industry. It's quite an old data point. But I remember in 2007 when I first got my smartphone, Palm Trio. I don't know if anybody remember that brand. And I was so excited that I can take my emails on the go. All the company resources were available. And now this company doesn't exist anymore because they didn't catch the wave. This slide is rather old. The reason I keep on showing it in my presentations is because it says all and nothing about smart cities. And I'm very happy that today we are especially with what happens in the IoT disruption, we are in a position to actually being able to define smart cities. Some time ago when I first started the journey in 2010, it was all about bringing connectivity. And I have people in the company and partners and clients coming to me all the time asking me, I have a project about hospital and university and a smart building, and you're the expert of the smart cities. How are we going to tackle that project? So I'm happy that today we have been able to really identify what a smart city is and what is important and what we can name actually as projects in smart cities. So before I move into some more real examples, this is something of my study, and I love the circles. I think Mr. Lowe was with the circles before that. So one of the KPIs that I looked at when we were trying to define what smart cities is what is sustainability. Sustainability can have a lot of different forms, but I think the three most important that play a role for defining the sustainability in smart cities are economic, environmental, and social. And for cities to find a way to start their journey and their blueprint, they have to find the intercept of those three. How do they find the intercept? Depends on how they can measure all the three, right? So economic, of course, is all about what jobs are we creating, how many new companies have registered, and I have to say that I think also Mr. Lowe was mentioning about his experience in Catalonia. Barcelona was, of course, one of the founding fathers of smart cities. They actually can proudly say today they can actually really measure the economic impact on the project that they have done. On top of that, we should be looking at environment KPIs, obviously CO2 reduction, waste management per capita, extreme traffic congestions per day, extreme traffic congestion days per year. We should also look at the social impact. We all talk about the people, but this is the most difficult impact to be measured. So for some projects, people are looking at, or cities are looking at the crime rates, the hospital admission rates, but also the livability indexes. They're now available as well. Okay, so why smart cities? Again, trying just to quantify the reasoning and also the philosophy that we have, and I advise a lot of governments that we work with to look at. We have to look at things that are tangible, and there is a digitization of the infrastructure, the public space, and we see a lot of cities now considering these 6 domains as the leading domains to start their use cases and their deployments. So lighting obviously is the most tangible use case, the street lighting I'm talking about here, because 38% of a city bill is around the street lighting, so that's the energy consumption. If you can do certain reductions there, obviously you can quite a lot significantly improve your cost around energy. Parking, 30% of traffic is caused because of cars and drivers driving around trying to find a space. Maybe not so much in ASEAN, but in a lot of other countries. Urban mobility is all about traffic. I'm sure you've heard a lot about what we can do about traffic. Safety and security is very difficult to give it monetization point. And obviously this example here is more US-centric, so it is probably not as applicable in terms of value. How many crimes can you prevent? But the feeling of safety cannot be actually priced. So I think that there is a lot of focus on that as well in cities. Waste management, 60% in waste management is inefficiency in waste bin collections. What I mean is you don't know when the waste bins are full or when they are empty, so trucks are just driving around trying to collect them. So we see a lot of projects in that space as well. So a little bit about the technology, and it's been spoken a lot about what's happening in technology in smart cities, which of course is the IoT technologies that are coming are also applicable in cities and in the domains that I just shared. I think the biggest challenge we have, and it's often, very often missed and underestimated, is that a lot of cities are, of course, organized in silos. So even when they're doing the IoT projects, they're doing them in a vertical manner. So the waste department will be looking at waste efficiencies. The lighting or the highways department will be looking around lighting, traffic, and so forth. And what happens from technology perspective is we also see a lot of sensor technologies and IoT technologies that vertically integrate, which makes it very difficult of sharing the data across the departments and across the different projects, and let alone also mitigate the investments that are done in each individual domain. What also is happening is there is no standardization. I love the slides about all the communication protocol and the innovations that we have achieved in terms of technology, especially around communication. But there is no standardization, and make no mistake, this is going to be a big hurdle, because once you have the sensors deployed or the different IoT devices deployed on the ground, they have to make sure that they communicate over the same infrastructure. Even if it's different communication protocols, it has to be interoperable. And I think this definitely is a large challenge for us to go, because the communication technology is going much faster than what is being deployed. So this is just a bit of a commercial slide about our framework. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. The only thing that matters here is that we should have a horizontal approach on 3 levels. When we're doing vertical, so all of the devices on the bottom are the things that you can think of putting on the street level. Sensors or devices and so forth, cameras, etc. They all have to be connected. There has to be some horizontal infrastructure, even though not one communication protocol will be able to satisfy all the use cases. There are certain use cases that will require cellular, others will be Wi-Fi, other use cases will require LoRaWAN and so forth. So we do need to think horizontally what is that architecture looking like. The second most important thing, and I know that a lot of companies are talking about platforms, so do we. Doesn't matter, it's just that it is inevitable, because the software is the only way, this platform adoption is the only way of releasing the data and making it available for all the applications, all the analytics to come. And what these platforms do, they normalize the data. They are agnostic to the communication protocol. They normalize the data and they correlate the data. So I know if I'm a street light, I know if there is a car being parked next to me. If there is no car parked, I maybe dim myself down to 50%. If the car comes in, I go back to 100%. So you can see how additional energy efficiency can be achieved in the street lighting, just because there is an awareness around the street lights from the other sensor technologies that are there. There was a cybersecurity track, security all the way obviously on each level, how devices authenticate, what's the transport security, what's the platform security. So I'm just going to spend a few more minutes telling you something real, right? Not just the theory, the research, the corporate slides. I was in this city a month ago, and the reason I chose to talk about India today is obviously everybody has heard about their vision of 100 smart cities. I think the way the program is designed in collaboration between central government, state government, and local government is quite impressive, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Now, this is their first smart city. It's called Jaipur. It is a tourist city in south of Delhi. It's about 200-300 kilometers south of Delhi. It's the capital town of the Rajasthani state. So the first thing I'll share is around the program that I was talking about. So I think the biggest challenge we have in smart cities is who is going to pay the bill. And everybody has been talking about it. Where is the funding coming? What are the creative business models? Why would the government, what is the public-private partnership should look like? How much does any party put into stake? And so forth. I think Vietnam has been very successful in actually doing quite good PPPs especially for the physical infrastructure projects that I have seen in the recent 6-7 years. So in this case, what they did though, is they didn't want to get caught and spend years discussing what public-private partnership should look like. It's inevitable you need a public-private partnership, but what they did is they put a competition out directly from the Ministry of the Urban Development for the 100 cities, and all the cities are supposed to submit their application. If you're nominated, they've already nominated 90, and about 20 are already in deployment phase. If you're nominated, you have about a couple of months to set up a special purpose vehicle, and then you have to appoint a consultant. The purpose of that consultant is to, one, give you a blueprint for the solutions that will be deployed, but most importantly, give you a business model. So then you can receive the grant, which comes from both state government and central government. If you're a local government, right? If you're a city, you receive the grant under quite a few conditions. You're putting an infrastructure in place that is open, so it is the horizontal layer that I was sharing earlier in the framework. You have to put a horizontal layer that creates the base for the private sector to be interested to come in. So it is not government-funded initiative, but the way they have done it is that they make possible for the private sector to see the value of them to participate. A little bit about the city, because the seat time is now, I thought I have 20 minutes. Okay, I'm just gonna try to round up here. This is just to give you a little bit of a comparison of what this city looks like. I have Ho Chi Minh on the bottom and Jaipur on top and a couple of other cities. Just to give an example, obviously it's much smaller, but the density is quite high, 6,300 people per square kilometer, and here is 4,000 in Ho Chi Minh, so busier city, obviously. Now, when they were designing the blueprint, or when the consultants were looking at the blueprint in Jaipur, they identified 5 areas. Every city has different areas where they start with. A lot of them are overlapping. However, here it was urban mobility, citizen engagement, urban safety, energy efficiency, and green. And there were the different projects you can see listed in all the categories that they started deploying. What's important, of course, is that glue, which is the operation center that they set up, one central operation center, where all this data and information from all these projects. So if you are deploying, and they did not deploy everything in one go, this is a phased deployment. They've already done 4 phases of deployment, and they've started with one project in each of those areas. But the compliance that was required was that every project has to feed back into the operation center and has to give the meaningful data back to the operation center. But let me give you an example, because I went into the operation center a month ago there, and there was a touchy story that I was told. There was a case in the court about a driver of an expensive car who hit a delivery truck, and he was suing the delivery company and the truck driver because he was injured in the accident. Now, the police did not have any live footage from that event. However, the project that we have been doing with Jaipur, the operation center, there was a video surveillance system and analytics that was there. So what happened is they managed to see that in fact the truck was stopped, and the driver of the car ran recklessly in the back of the truck. So the driver of the truck was sitting there by the building where the operation center is, which is the Jaipur Development Authority, waiting for the chairman of the authority to come to thank him personally that he saved his whole livelihood, because he would have been broke and he would have gone even in prison for that if he was found guilty. So it does have some impact on small things like that. This is the solutions. So I was talking about the project. This is in reality the solutions that are deployed right now in terms of sensor technology and other IoT solutions. Obviously Wi-Fi everywhere, video surveillance, smart lighting is deployed in quite a few streets, smart parking is deployed in quite a few streets, and the environment, and the environment sensors are there, which are giving a lot of information around the CO2 and other parameters in the environment. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about the value at stake, because I'm sure this was part of a lot of discussions today. Cities just, when they take the journey, we see that they are able to put some number on the use cases, depending on the revenues or the additional revenues they can generate, as well as the operational savings that can be achieved. So that helps classify and prioritize the use cases. This is a little bit about the business models. One interesting thing I want to say here is that we see this new city infrastructure as a service coming, and it's interesting. It comes from telco service providers, of course, like you have Viettel and VMBT here, but it also comes from utility companies. It comes also from operators, like the waste collectors or even the parking operators. So what they will do is they'll invest into the technology and sell back the whole thing as a service to the city. Similar model to what was shown with the scooters, but then obviously on a smart cities context. And so it's not a journey, it's a destination, and it's about the people, but it's also about the public and the private partnership. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy it.